Hello, my name is Taya Graham, and welcome to the Police Accountability Report. As I've said before and will say again, the point of this show is to hold the police accountable. And part of that process is to hold the entire system which bolsters it accountable. And when I say the system, I mean the system that got us into the disaster we're in now. But before I go any further, I want you watching to know that if you have evidence of police misconduct, please email it to us privately at par@therealnews.com. And please like and share and comment on our videos. You know I read your comments and that I appreciate them. So, before I discuss our exclusive reporting that raises serious questions about how police are responding to the COVID-19 crisis, I have a video I want you to watch. It was a cell phone video taken of a Baltimore police officer coughing, yes, coughing, as he patrolled a city neighborhood. Let's watch.
Hey, Officer Friendly with the cherry cheeks.
Now, Commissioner Michael Harrison has called for an investigation, but he has refused to release the identity of the officer. Still, I think the video is illustrative of a deeper point about American policing, about how often it seems at odds with the community, and how even amid a crisis where thousands of Americans are dying, that gap remains clearly delineated. Let me give you another example. Last week, Real News photojournalist Cameron Granadino captured this, a minor arrest that could have easily been avoided. Despite an increasingly intense pandemic, Cameron caught police taking a man to jail who clearly could have been let go. And it is that fact that American policing seems to plow forward with unnecessary detainments in the face of an existential crisis that will be the theme of our show. More to the point, we will ask the question, why? We have to ask again and again, how has mass incarceration helped make this country safer or healthier? How has the recently passed minimum sentencing laws in states like ours fixed the shortage of hospital beds and respirators we are struggling with now? And how does the drumbeat that we must hire more police and give them more military equipment so they can make more arrests look now in light of nurses going to work without protective gear? By the way, I bet there isn't a shortage of Kevlar. To answer these questions, I will be talking to my co-host Stephen Janis about a new theory of policing he and I have been discussing. But first, I want to show you the video shot by Real News photojournalist Cameron Granadino and discuss with him what he witnessed. Cam, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Glad to be on the show. I respect what you all are doing and continue to do.
So Cam, first tell us, what first alerted you that this was happening?
I was looking for parking. I was driving home after work. On the right side, there was about 6 police officers surrounding a young black man in handcuffs sitting on a paddy wagon. And so I also saw about 4 people on the sidewalk filming the incident. And so I decided, since I had my press credentials, that I would park my car and film what was going on.
So Cameron, witnesses told you police had initially stopped an Amazon delivery person. What exactly precipitated this event?
According to witnesses, the young man ran a red light, and because there was an incident already on that street, he drove past that incident that was occurring with the Amazon worker and parked at the end of the street. And the police officer who was following him took this as him not pulling over fast enough, disobeying his command, essentially. I'm not sure why he was pulled over for running a red light. Usually the speed camera gives you a ticket anyway. I see people in Baltimore running red lights all the time, and no one's pulled over. Usually the speed camera retroactively gives you a ticket.
Now, the man they eventually arrested was simply trying to avoid a group of police cars that had gathered, right? Tell us what happened.
And according to witnesses that I interviewed after, they said that the young man was stopped, given a ticket for running a red light. Apparently, he asked the police officer, well, why are you a police? Why are you a policeman? Why are you doing this? So the police officer was offended by this, and this was the reason why he was pulled out of the car, put in handcuffs, accused of being intoxicated. The police, according to witnesses, were going through a sobriety test but never completed it.
No, whoa. I never denied no test. I'm sorry, listen, it's on the camera. I never denied no test. Did I ever deny a test? No. Did I ever deny a test? I never denied no test. I'll take a test right now. I asked him why his hand was shaking.
Yes, sir.
With the media.
No, listen, I asked him why his hand
With the
was
media.
Okay, on the sidewalk.
With the news.
Okay, you can do that from the sidewalk.
It's public property.
What unfolded after that was having him bringing a paddy wagon there, trying to take him away to complete the sobriety test somewhere else. Where they took him, I imagine they took him to intake, which is very dangerous right now. And they should have completed the sobriety test right then and there, if that was the case, to have him out of harm's way, to do it in the safest manner as possible. And he was asking for a sobriety test. You could see in the video that he's asking for a sobriety test, but no, they insisted to take him away and ruin his life really, by having the tow truck come take his car away. They could have easily had him park the car. Anybody could have parked his car. So we could have called him a lift home. I said, you know, we should call him a lift home. This could be resolved like this, I imagine it would be resolved for a college student around that area.
Come on, he hasn't done anything.
My brother repassed.
Just drive him
over.
Get him a lift. We'll get him a lift. We'll get him a lift.
I'm not locked up.
Be reasonable. There's nothing been done right now. There's nothing been done.
This is an area that's heavily policed, not only by the Baltimore City Police, by campus patrol, by even community police officers in yellow vests. And so they have an asset to protect, right, in that area. And they don't want any spillover coming into that neighborhood from Greenmount Avenue.
Now, I noticed there was a considerable amount of concern expressed by a group of people about what was happening.
Y'all need to be reasonable. This is ridiculous. Come on, folks. Be reasonable. We're all humans. Come on. Y'all gotta. Come on.
What were their concerns, and didn't they offer the police alternatives to arresting him?
Yes, there were alternatives offered to the police. And the thing about it, when I was filming the police, I noticed that they didn't even know what to do. There was disagreements between them.
Now, listen, let somebody take my car and park my car.
Yeah, I can.
Because guess what? He already let me go.
Yeah, and so
For a minor ticket. Like, he already let me go for a minor ticket.
Facebook information.
And listen, man, no, get my keys.
Where are they?
No, listen, no. No, hold on, listen.
Step up in the vehicle.
No, listen.
No.
Step in the vehicle.
No. Don't.
Wait a
No.
minute. Hey, listen.
No. This is.
When I suggested that they should just let him go, park his car, and give him a lift home, one of the officers said, "Okay, where's your car?" And then, this is an older officer, and then two of the other officers said, "No, we're not going to do that. We're going to take him away. We're going to arrest him."
Can one of y'all take my car? Can one of y'all take my car? Listen, I don't need neither one of y'all. Listen, let somebody take my car and park my car.
Yeah, I can.
Because guess what? He already let me go.
Yeah, and so
For a minor ticket. Like, he already let me go.
And he denied a sobriety test. We have it on camera, and we're going to take him away and do the test in the intake center. So they were persistent about, the majority of them were persistent about taking him away, but you could see the disagreements, and they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to proceed in this situation. And you could see officers kind of yelling at each other when they're putting him in the paddy wagon, like, "Get in here," you know.
I'm not locked up.
Be reasonable. There's nothing been done right now. There's nothing been done. No. Damn it.
No, why doesn't he have a sobriety test? Why aren't you giving him a sobriety
no, we need to take him away. And after this incident, when he was taken away, one of the officers goes up to the main officer who stopped him initially and was laughing. He was laughing and he said, "You know I had to back you up, man. You know I had to back you up." And so this is what it's about. It's about them having allegiance with each other, no matter what they are doing.
Cam, thank you so much for sharing your reporting and your work with us. So, Stephen, you have asked both the mayor's office and the police department for comment on Cameron's video. What did they say?
Well, I'm standing outside of City Hall right now, and so far the mayor or the police commissioner have not commented. We have sent them the video and shown it to them, and they've said nothing. Again, as I reiterate, the police commissioner has commented on the coughing cop, but so far nothing from City Hall and nothing from the mayor.
Stephen, the risks of these arrests are real because coronavirus cases are growing inside state jails, correct?
Yeah, I mean, state officials have been tight-lipped about what's going on in Maryland prisons, and this has been a case across the country. But so far, they admitted 17 inmates have tested positive for coronavirus and 1 corrections officer. But we have been hearing from groups that have been saying that many more prisoners are sick, that they're forcing them to stay in their cells, and that it's a growing crisis in the prison. So basically taking someone into prison right now is almost like a death sentence because there's no way to social distance.
We've been discussing on the show the social costs of policing and why in many cases it seems disproportionate to the need. Now, you've got a theory that is tied to the foundation of modern policing. Can you share it with us?
Well, it's really interesting you bring up Sir Robert Peel, because one of Sir Robert Peel's principles of community policing was that the evidence of good policing is the absence of police officers and the absence of crime. In other words, there's no crime, but there's also very little police presence. And what we witness in this arrest is that it's being turned on its head. We're seeing the obverse of that, which is the absolute maximum presence of policing with the absence of any real crime. So the idea that we have seen in Baltimore policing and in American policing is this obverse of the rule of absence of police and absence of crime, and really the omnipresence of police with the absence of any real crime to address it. And it seems to me that the point of it is to have the omnipresence of police, to create policing as a rhetorical tool, to infect a community in some way, and to use a maybe very fraught metaphor with blanket criminality. And that's what we're seeing in this case.
So how much of this policing would you say is informed by the hegemonic aspect of it and not related to something more productive?
Well, when you look at it this way, very few and little of the resources in policing have been put into investigations of murders or burglaries. We have a very low clearance rate in those, especially in Baltimore City. But most of the policing, most of the money, the big money, goes into drug task force, into drug initiatives, into plainclothes police officers. We have had terrible scandals in Baltimore City Police involving plainclothes police, including the gun trace task force scandal, which was 8 police officers, actually 9 police officers now, who are charged and eventually found guilty of dealing drugs and stealing from residents. So all the money goes there. Why does all the money go there? Why does all the money go to people who walk around in T-shirts arresting people for possession of substances that, really do nothing but alter the mind? The point is that that's where the hegemonic aspect of policing is where we put our money, and that's what we've gotten.
It is both enlightening and illustrative that American policing has strayed so far from its roots. Or has it? Now, the aforementioned Sir Robert Peel was the son of a mill owner, and much of his impetus for creating modern policing, according to historians, may have been to preserve his father's business. That's because during the mid-19th century, it was not unusual for workers subject to the cruel evolution of capitalism to burn down the same mills that Peel's father used to make his fortune. But let me take this idea a bit further. As you recall last week, we talked about the role of ideas and ideology in perpetuating inequality in capitalist societies. And we have talked in the past about the role policing has played in forging the myths that bolster this disparity. Well, imagine if you're a member of the 1%, and imagine if you feed off a system that continues to rely on the underlying imbalance, despite the fact that Americans work harder than ever, take fewer vacations, and watch their income barely rise in the past 4 decades. Your income as a 1%er is rising exponentially. Seems like a tricky predicament. I mean, on the one hand, you know intuitively that the unfair and inequitable system is not sustainable in a functional democracy. I mean, what if the people decide they don't like being left out of the country's economic growth? And what if they elected political leaders not owned by you, but who pledge to undo this cruel imbalance? And what if they form unions and participate in activism and otherwise question that unfair deal you thrust upon them? Well, besides pouring billions of dollars into spreading disinformation and sowing political divisiveness, What are the other tools at your disposal? What can you use to make sure that Congress continues to pass laws like the 2017 tax break that makes you even richer while the vast majority of average citizens are left behind? What levers do you have at your disposal to diminish the rights of people and make the case the richer simply more deserving? Well, I would proffer American policing, but the hegemonic version Stephen and I discussed. Want to suppress voting rights? Make an arrest under the guise of zero tolerance. Want to dilute political participation? Charge someone with minor victimless crime. Want to invade poor communities and communities of color? Instigate the war on drugs. What I'm saying is bestow a communal scarlet letter on as many people as possible. Burden them with criminal records, nuisance fines and court costs. Hit them with probation fees and ankle bracelets. Saddle them with a mugshot, innocent or not, and then put them on the internet with the option to pay to take it down. Seize their assets without due process, even if they haven't committed a crime. But most of all, use blanket criminality to make being less than wealthy a crime and make sure the hard edge of the criminal justice system is most blunt on those who cannot afford to fight it. And finally, use Hollywood and the media to continue to tout the perspective of police officers and law enforcement while completely ignoring the other side of the story. And there you have it. The essence of what ails us, why the U.S. response to the COVID-19 crisis is at the moment the worst in the world. That's because for decades now, the elites of this nation have been fighting a war against its own people, a battle for which we are all now paying the price. I want to thank my guest, photojournalist Cameron Granadino, for his reporting and his work in the streets of Baltimore. Cam, thank you so much.
Thank you, Taya Graham, and Stephen Janis for continuing to report on incidents like these and holding police accountable and checking what they're doing. It's very much needed right now during this public health crisis and in general.
And I want to thank my co-host, Stephen Janis, for his invaluable reporting, editing, and writing. Thank you, Stephen.
Glad to do it. We're going to do more.
And of course, I have to thank friend of the show, Noli D, for her support and her help. Thanks, Noli. And I want you watching to know that if you have evidence of police misconduct or brutality, please share it with us and we might be able to investigate. Please reach out to us. You can email us tips privately at par@therealnews.com and share your evidence of police misconduct. You can also message us at Police Accountability Report on Facebook or Instagram, or at Eyes on Police on Twitter. And of course, you can message me directly at Taya's Baltimore on Twitter and Facebook. And please like, share, and comment. You know I read your comments and that I appreciate them. My name is Taya Graham, and I'm your host, and I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of the Police Accountability Report. Please be safe out there.